So hi everybody, I'm Mike Gaziano. I am a therapist that's been doing this for about 31 years. So I've had a lot of time to talk about and experience true sustainability and healthy recovery for a litany of things. And I want to just sort of start off by saying this is a true opportunity to enhance where we are in our own healthy lives as we struggle through changes in our life right now. It's important to look at how do we sustain a healthier me, a healthier way to move forward each day. Now, when I talk about recovery, I'd like to start off with the premise that if we break it down to a simple statement, that recovery can basically be literally picking oneself up from a fall, then we're talking about the opportunity to move forward even though we may stumble at times. Now, my intent today was to sort of talk about sustainability in our recovery. And when I talk about that concept of recovery, it can be about whatever it is that gets in the way of your life. Now, it can be certainly a substance, it can be a behavior, it can be a way of navigating that's maladaptive as an adult. So whatever that it is, we want to look at how can we be healthy in recovery to address it and to move forward on a day-to-day basis. The important thing I'd like to stress right now is that this is truly a process in life versus a goal. And each day is another opportunity to forge forward in a sort of recovery-minded way. I put down there in this brief little talk some key points to build upon. However, one of the things I want to start with before I build onto the key points is the concept of complacency. If I'm going to do sustainability in my life for recovery, that means to continue to build and enhance. Complacency basically means that you're at a point where you really are saying, I'm good, and therefore I don't need to do anymore. I just need to go forward without, putting further effort in. I hope all of you realize that when it comes to recovery, it's truly an inconvenience, which means you need to make it a daily priority for yourself to, forge forward by doing what you need to do each day in a healthy recovery mindset. If I become complacent, which happens sometimes, is I may even become stagnant to where I just sort of go through the days, but I really don't enhance my life and I'm really not moving forward in the way that I want to from a recovery mindset. Now, I was taught many years ago by an old therapist, and she said to me, you always got to watch out for that itty-bitty committee. And that itty-bitty committee up above will oftentimes start the concept of, faltering and relapsing into old patterns. So what you want to realize is each day, first and foremost, ask this question when you wake up in the morning. How am I doing? And if I answer with the response of, well, I'm exhausted, I'm frustrated, or other kinds of, ways that clearly sense that something isn't quite right, then I need to look at what am I going to do to help address that for that day. So when you look at some key factors to foster a healthy recovery life, first and foremost, physical self-care is going to be important for sustainability. And when I talk about physical self-care, what it basically is saying, what are you doing with your body each day as you wake up that's physically healthy for you? Now, that could be as simple as stretching in the morning. That could be as simple as taking a walk, something that provides physical movement. I've told people over the years that if you think of recovery based on 4 letters, and I know that in the 12-step community, we talk about how do you recover, and it's in the question HOW. Well, I'd like to put forth the 4 letters of first starting with H, and again, that ties to the 12-step piece about being honest. Okay, if my physical self is not healthy, I need to be honest about what it is that's not going on with me physically that I'm concerned about. Perhaps I may need to see a medical provider. Perhaps I may need to look for something around my eyes or my teeth or whatever I need to do to take care of me physically and to make sure that I'm healthy in all ways moving forward. So honesty is going to be a very important part of this. And when we're physically active, we know that we're reducing that sedentary piece in our brain that needs to keep moving forward on a day-to-day basis. So We want to look at our nutrition as we look at our physical self-care. We want to look at sleep. And we also want to look at, taking in water. Believe it or not, if you don't hydrate, then you're creating a situation where there's going to be concerns within your body. So here I am going to hydrate briefly. And again, hydration is an important part of our physical self-care. Believe it or not, breathing in a healthy way is also part of physical self-care. So breathing is an important part to take time in the morning when you wake up. Simply breathe and allow yourself to connect to your body. The second part is looking at your lifestyle. Now, right now in our world, our lifestyle has drastically changed because of the limits that we have to socially engage, to get out and be involved in certain things. However, our lifestyle can still be healthy based on things that we do during this time of, sort of being away from others. And one of them is through relaxation work. I have found over time that if I set time just sort of to sit and reflect, breathe and relax, I'm far more able to embrace my recovery, my day, and my movement throughout the day. So relaxation and also setting goals for yourself. I think it's important to realize that even with the changes we're going through, setting goals can be as simple as I'm going to get out of bed, I'm going to get my feet on the floor, and I'm going to get myself out the door. And those are the 3 goals that I'll make for myself each day, which says that I'm moving forward again. That's the piece that I really want to embrace is the concept of moving forward. And in lifestyle, we want to look at how do we relax, how do we sort of feel a sense of fulfillment in our life and their productivity for us, and also a time to have fun. Fun is paramount to healthy recovery. Now, some of you out there, if I gave you a ball of Play-Doh and I said, here it is, and I put it in your hand, some of you would play around with it and maybe make some things. Others would sort of stretch it around and maybe fling it around your fingers or whatever. And then there's some of you that would say, you know what, Mike, this Play-Doh sort of sticky on my hands. Do you have something that could wipe it off with because it's uncomfortable for me to have in my hands? Fun is important, and sometimes you have to sort of dismiss that adult thinking and just go back to that childlike part of us that loves to embrace life and enjoy life. So for me, fun can be as simple as making silly videos or doing things with art, or even being silly with my daughter and telling jokes and things. Fun is an important part of life, and fun is also an important part of recovery. And when we're looking at the sustainability of our recovery, we want to embrace the desire to truly have fun and to have that fun on a daily basis. The other thing is our mental and emotional self-care. Now, if you think about that itty-bitty committee up here again and what's going on in it, my challenge to all of you as you're listening to me today is ask yourself this: whatever's rattling around in my mind right now, is it healthy and productive to where I want to be and the goals that I'm setting for the day, or is it getting in the way of that? Oftentimes we have negative narrative we play around in our heads that usually will sabotage the direction that we want to go. So if you find yourself in sort of a negative thinking process, what I would want you to embrace is the word perhaps. And simply saying, perhaps it doesn't have to be as negative as what I'm thinking. Perhaps this is a new opportunity for me to learn and grow from what's causing me to be stuck this day. Perhaps is a safe word in my opinion because it doesn't foster a have to, it merely invites the opportunity for something to be different for that moment and to start changing that narrative within our minds. Positive beliefs is another piece to this that I want you to realize is the more that you can embrace a sense of positivity, the more that you are going to have a healthier mindset for that day, both mentally and emotionally. So for me, what I want to do on a daily basis is embrace the thought, I can do this. This is a great opportunity to grow and to learn. And this is my day to make it the best day for me and for others that I work with. So having that positivity is a great way to enhance the mental health. You know, having sort of an understanding of past memories that you can rely upon when you're struggling. Now, for me, anytime that I'm sort of struggling, I always like to turn back to my family, both my family of origin as well as my daughter and my life, and be able to say, wow, these are really wonderful times, or these are things that bring me joy. So I have a lot of penguins around my office, and the reason I do is it started roughly when I was in seventh grade, that they saw that I waddled when I walked. We had a silly time in gym, and they called me the penguin, and my other buddy was the spider. So that penguin concept stuck with me. And yes, I do waddle when I walk. And the other thing is that it helped me to find joy by just sort of having an image. So penguins are a great image for me. Having them around is sort of a fun way for me to, return to that playful piece, as well as realizing penguins are survivalists, penguins are very hardy, and penguins get through a lot. So I really like that, and that works for me. Obviously, you want to be able to work on some level of therapy for your sustainability. Now, right now, that may be virtual, where you're, doing it online, or you see a therapist, or perhaps even a support group. Those are all important pieces to, the mental health and the emotional self-care. Also, it's important while you're dealing with recovery is to honor grief that you may have experienced and work through grief. Mental and emotional self-care is not sort of dismissing or minimizing what's going on. It's rather addressing and dealing with and taking responsibility and accountability for health. So when it comes to grief and loss, it's also important to acknowledge right now all of us are experiencing different types of loss because of the changes in our lifestyle and the interactions that we've sort of been minimized by. It doesn't mean that we're not going to get through this. It just means it's important to recognize, hey, there are days that I sort of feel lonely because I don't have the same kind of camaraderie day to day with many of my friends as I would have had in the past. And so I might at times grieve that camaraderie that I struggle with. And that's maybe when I may do a Zoom with some of my friends. I just did a Zoom with many of my family members last week, and we had like 7 different family members from throughout the United States on that. And it was truly a great way to sort of reconnect, because there is a sense of loss, especially from either your family of origin or friends and family, as we've been dealing with this world the way it is right now. So having that opportunity to engage in that is going to be an important part. And again, when you have the opportunity to work with a therapist, it's important, because what it does is gives you another way to bounce off some of what's going on. And when we're dealing with the sustainability of our own recovery, it's going to be important to have ongoing work from either sponsorship, support groups, or therapists that can continue to sort of challenge us and to help us when we struggle. Now, the fourth area is around the support of people. And one of the things I've found over the years is that there's different types of support. There's emotional support, where you can call somebody and they're there for you, and they're not going to judge you. They're just like, I'm here for you. I want to be able to understand, and I just want you to know I care and love you. And emotional support is different than a physical support, where perhaps you would call somebody and say, hey, I don't have something. I was wondering if you could help me with this, or could you bring this over, or could you help me with moving this, or something where they're physically there to help you, and literally at times to sort of take care of the physical needs through self-care, and also through them being caregiving at that point. And then there's types of support that are challenging support, where they'll not, coddle you. Rather, they'll sort of challenge you to a point of saying, hey, perhaps you may want to rethink that, or are you starting to fall back into old patterns? Is that itty-bitty committee sort of driving the narrative right now? And oftentimes those kinds of supports will come from a sponsor or even from a therapist that can sort of challenge you, or support groups that will certainly help you in an accountability and, sort of shine a light when you're not able to see what's really going on. It could also be through your spiritual side, where you might have some clergy or a priest or a rabbi or whatever that can also be a support for you. I think it's paramount at this time in our lives to seek out support wherever we can, and to not be stingy about reaching out when we're struggling, because there's the old belief that, oh, I'm just going to burden somebody if I reach out to them. Well, again, if we infuse that word perhaps we talked about earlier, perhaps you won't be burdening them. Perhaps they'll be inviting the opportunity to be supportive with you. And that ties ultimately to the fifth area of sustainability is, what does that spiritual self-care look like? And again, I'm not necessarily speaking about it from a faith base. It can be from any sort of higher power or a sense of the universe that you feel connected to. It may be nature. It may be different kinds of connection that you allow and embrace. I was taught a long time ago, when it came to the three letters God, that you could also embrace the concept of good, orderly direction. So spirituality and or faith and or a sense of connectiveness to something outside of yourself can be another important part of the recovery direction and of the sustainability. What you realize is, in these 5 key areas where you struggle, you might want to enhance those areas. So if you're doing really well with your physical self-care and your lifestyle looks pretty good, however, sometimes you're struggling with some of the emotional or mental health side, or supports from people, or through your spiritual side, then perhaps you may want to enhance those areas and look at opportunities that way. I think the ultimate goal that we want to establish in our life is to lead a healthy, productive, compassionate, and caring life that fosters the ability to provide support and care to others, as well as giving to ourselves. So by building on those 5 areas, I truly believe there's a great opportunity to enhance sustainability. Keeping in mind that if you become complacent and you struggle with sort of putting that effort forward, the second thing besides asking yourself, how are you doing, is, again, looking at, am I truly being honest with how am I doing, or am I trying to dismiss, minimize, or perhaps even deny what's really going on? It's normal and human to have struggles and to not always be, right on doing what you need to do. I tell people no one is Mary Poppins, because she was, practically perfect in every way. So we all, myself included, will struggle and have difficulty from time to time. Be honest with yourself, and also be open to the opportunity that presents itself on a day-to-day basis. And then P, as I told you, can be around being present in the situation. Don't just go through motions in life. Be present and involved in life that way. So if you're honest, you're open, you're present, you're now in a hop state. Hop is a verb, and it means to move forward. In healthy recovery, you're constantly moving in a forward direction. And even if you take steps back, it doesn't mean that you're faltering. It just means that you now have insight to where you've been, and now you can move forward again. And if you add one more letter to the way I look at things, and that's an E, so it's H-O-P-E, hope. The E stands for emotional availability. Allow yourselves in healthy recovery to be vulnerable, and to realize that being vulnerable, it means to put down your walls and to let others in, let each day in, and let that opportunity in. I truly feel that when you have H-O-P-E, when you have hope, there is always opportunity to grow and move forward. The last piece I just want you to take into account is, there are 2 Chinese characters for danger, and oftentimes when we think of relapse, we worry about the danger of what that can be. Now, the Chinese characters are for crisis, excuse me. And the two characters, one is danger, because if I'm in crisis, there's definite danger. And the other character is opportunity. So each day we have an opportunity to move forward and to grow through the sustainability of our recovery by applying some of these, foundational things we've talked about today. I hope these tools have been something that you can further embrace and enhance in your life. I also want to stress that since it is a process, not a goal, be compassionate to yourselves. Be able to say, you know what, today isn't going exactly the way I'd like it to. However, I'm human and I can show care and compassion to myself. When I have that ability to be compassionate, then I have the ability to allow myself forgiveness and to grow forward in the changes that I'm making and the commitment to do those. That being said, what I'd like to do for the remainder of this brief talk is to open it up and see if any of you have any particular questions. I'm going to look over at my other screen and see if I can read some questions that maybe some of you have. Can I please repeat the HOPE side? Certainly. So again, HOPE stands for being honest, okay? Being honest with your own level of struggles and your day-to-day life. Be open to the opportunity that what presents itself, and be open to others being there to help support you and to reach out to those. P, to be present, meaning not just to sit and take up space, rather be part of that space. Be present and in that space and be mindful to that. And then E is the emotional availability, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, to connect, and to see that emotional being vulnerable is actually a strength, not a weakness. And again, let me just sort of review some of these things. If a person identifies themselves as their illness, what happens sometimes is they're sort of missing the humanity part. What I like to say is my struggles with maladaptive behaviors are not who I am. They are things that I'm working on. I, Mike, am a good person with compassion and care and also have faults. So you can actually be very active in your recovery by allowing yourself to acknowledge that there are things you're working on. When you go into a 12-step meeting, you'll often say, hi, I'm Mike, I'm codependent, I'm an alcoholic, I'm this or that. What I like to say is, hi, I'm Mike, this is what I'm working on, and this is who I am. So it becomes a different way to sort of acknowledge those parts that are challenging you, and also having the compassion to see yourself in a healthy or favorable light. Let's see. So if you want to quiet the itty-bitty committee, one of the things you say to yourself is, who's the CEO of that itty-bitty committee? If it's your negative self-talk, that's that CEO, then infuse the word perhaps into that negativity and take back in your mind a more positive or healthier way to look at your thinking. So again, thinking of that word perhaps, it invites true opportunity and possibility. I find that if someone says to me yes or no, my first thought from the itty-bitty committee is if they say yes, my first thought is hell no. And if they say no, then my next thought is hell yes. So the itty-bitty committee sometimes will get in the way of healthy thinking. So if I infuse the word perhaps, it's not a yes or a no, it's just inviting the opportunity to sort of rethink where my head is at and embrace, openness to change. Let's see here. Bear with me for a minute. I'm just going to look at a couple more questions as I'm talking with you. With the changing of our times right now, the sustainability of our recovery needs to be fostered on the understanding, although we don't have the opportunity to be in a social environment for support, we certainly can use online, we can do Zoom, we can do virtual, because even though there are inconveniences to many of these strategies, having somebody look at you either through Zoom or even on the phone creates a connectiveness. We as humans I need to have connectiveness. And I do know when I'm connecting, especially with those that are supportive of my my recovery, then I start to build again my accountability to the changes I want to make, and also allow myself to be called on the times that I'm sort of minimizing, dismissing, or not really embracing my healthy recovery direction. Again, bear with me as I keep looking at some of these questions. Some of them are redundant because they were asking about that concept of hope. We don't have CEEs for this. There's no CEs because this was basically a brief webinar. We did not set it up to do CEs. Actually, it was more of an informative opportunity for me to share a little bit of my life experience as a therapist and as a person in recovery. And again, my recovery has been a foundation through daily restorative care, as well as seeking support, working through challenges, grief and loss, trauma, those kinds of things. So I'm a firm believer that we don't do this alone. I'm a firm believer in taking the steps to look at my powerlessness and unmanageability, and then often to look at where do I need to make the amends in my life, make the changes, and then how do I create that sustainability moving forward in my life. I hope that, again, this was a chance for you to sort of refresh your mind for the day. I know that by just talking with all of you, I feel rejuvenated to embrace the day, to take on the challenges of what we're facing each and every day, and doing it with compassion and care, not only for myself, but for those that I work with and provide cares to. So again, I want to thank you all for tuning in today, for giving me a chance sort of to share some of my thoughts, and feel free as you go through the day to hydrate, because I'll do that again, to embrace the word perhaps, because I've found over years that when I hear perhaps, it just opens up so much opportunity and allows me to look at possibility rather than feeling shut down or discouraged by what I'm doing. So all that being said, I want to again thank you for your time. I hope this has been helpful, and you all have a great day.